cake too flowing. I like cake. All right, are we ready to start? Ready to do this?
Why not? Yeah,
I think we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and start this up. Okay, so this is the Elder Scrolls Online podcast number 6.
Number 6.
Hello, everyone. 6. So today we'll be talking a little bit about a new article that was published on the Elder Scrolls Online Twitter yesterday regarding dungeons and player roles in them and enemy behaviors and stuff like that. So we're talking about that. The player holy trinity will be somewhat discussed a little bit. Conditional skill lines, and I'm sure someone will go more into depth with that when we get there, because again, I don't really know as much about the skill lines as he does. And then random and viewer questions at the end, some of the random stuff that we want to throw in. So let us get started.
It has begun. Hello, everyone. It's been we didn't do the podcast yesterday. Sorry, guys.
No, because Soma's
car was broken.
Was dead. I know how that goes. I just spent a long time getting my Jeep up and running and stuff, so it sucks.
It's a bad feeling, yeah. I definitely have to take it to the shop probably like tomorrow. It's gonna cost money. What's that?
I spent a bunch of money, and then yeah, it's one of those things too where they I have a center console on my Jeep, and I wanted it fixed, but they're like, yeah, they don't make that part anymore, so you either spend like $600 to get it fixed, or you just leave it broken. So I'm like, we'll leave it broken.
Well, you know what? Why don't we just say, screw cars, screw getting laid, screw real life. Let's talk about ESO. Let's talk about what really matters. A fake world that we want to immerse ourselves in, right? Am I right?
I think you're right.
No. I'm right. I know.
Well, except about the getting laid part. I want to kind of keep that part. I think.
Nobody gets laid on the internet. Seriously, Deagen.
Oh, gosh.
No cars online either. Okay.
Well, it depends on what game you're playing.
That's true.
All right. So let's talk about dungeons. Let's talk about dungeons.
Let's do it.
So there was an article that I'll link here in the chat that was published, which is pretty cool. It goes over a lot of player roles and how, this game kind of compares to a traditional MMO system, and how it differs as well. Now, we'll talk about, as far as dungeons and the player roles go, we'll just go over each role as far as tanking, healing, DPS, and what you're going to be expecting and what's going to be expected of you. And yeah, we'll start there. So we'll start with DPS. Now,
my favorite role.
DPS is my favorite role too. It always has been.
It's easy.
And I like healing in some MMOs, but it depends on the MMO. Sometimes it's super boring. Sometimes it's a lot more intensive, but I generally...
ESO healing should be pretty fun from what I've seen.
Generally, I tend to gravitate towards DPS, though, so I've always liked to do it.
Me too, man. Me too.
Because, I'm just the best when it comes to DPS.
Sorry, but I was a Frost DK, and my AoE output was just to die for.
Ooh.
I was the top DPS every raid. Well, sometimes I would fall to second or third place
to a Fury Warrior
on single target DPS on bosses to Blood Death Knights.
When did you stop playing?
Wow, 2 months into Cataclysm.
So what? I don't know. This is such a rant. You can't judge your DPS from. It's been so long since I've played. I can't really remember where I was at. I was pretty good. I was a Fury Warrior, even when everybody told when Fury was apparently nerfed and Arms Warriors were the way to go. I stayed Fury, and I still did really, really well. But
Fury Warriors are awesome, man.
They're fun.
That last talent, whatever, you could have two-handed weapons.
Yeah, Titan's Grip or whatever it's called.
Titan's Grip, yep. GG, man.
GG. Oh, so much fun.
Yeah. I was that dual-wield Frost DK, though, just lighting mother effers up.
Lighten them up. All right, well, so let's talk about the DPS role as far as how it's going to be in Elder Scrolls Online. So, Well, they have certain bullet points that we'll just go over and go through and discuss each one. So the first one is monsters will attack you. Don't panic and don't expect your tank to handle every enemy alone. You have a great toolbox to mitigate damage. You can interrupt, block, and dodge while dealing damage. So
that is the best thing ever to start with. That is so good because, like, your traditional range DPS or whatever in WoW or SWTOR is standing there and he's managing his hotbar and his cast times. He's, moves to the left or the right because of the fire on the ground or because the boss is charging, and then he gets his new position, roots there, and shoots his fireballs over and over and over again. In this game, you are going to have to watch your ass. You're not going to have some tank protecting you and taking all the threat nonstop. Because there was some fights in WoW and SWTOR and stuff where an enemy never even got close to me, never touched me or anything. Because the threat mitigation for tanks and DPS was massive. So, I don't know. I think this is a lot better. I like now, as a DPS, I'm going to have to protect myself. Yeah, I have that tank. If I'm like, dude, I need you now. It was able to hold off this mob for, 30 seconds, but all my shit's on cooldown. Now is just the time you have to come save me. And then he will, right? I like the fact that I have to move around. I like the fact that I'm going to be attacked and think about more than just throwing my fireball at them.
It's all about being more immersive in the game, and I think that feature definitely makes it feel more immersive. You're not thinking about like, okay, I got my rotation, I have this button, this button, this button, and there we go, we win the, it's like
we win the internet.
We win the interwebs.
We win a JPEG of a trophy.
It's much more an immersive system, and I like it. And at this point in the DPS, as far as monsters will attack you, will tie into a little bit more of the topic as far as monster behaviors go, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it'll tie back in. So again, that's the first one. It's awesome. Monsters will attack you. You have to deal with them. You're given tools to do so, and I think that's great.
It's a very good thing.
The next one. Focusing on one enemy at a time is helpful. Coordinate with your group and try to damage the same enemy, then move on to another. The longer the fight goes on, the more danger your party is in of running out of magicka and stamina. Now, this is kind of a no-brainer, right?
Nah, I was about to say that. That's like, come on. Everyone knows how to focus fire. If you don't,
then you probably haven't played an MMO, or you're just really bad at them.
Google.com focus fire.
Yeah.
The idea, if you don't know what focus firing is, the idea is if everyone is targeting their own enemy and they're whittling them down, all those enemies are still able to do damage, right? If you focus fire one dude at a time, that's one less person to do damage to, and they die a lot faster. Yes. If you didn't know that, holy shit, I got bad news for you. No, I don't.
Probably have been the butt end of a lot of jokes in the games that you've been playing.
Hey, some people are new to games, though. I'm just messing with you. But seriously, focus firing is important. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
And that's awesome, too. That ties into the whole, you have certain abilities that work in combination with other abilities, and all that comes into focus fire and stuff like that. So that makes complete sense. The longer the fight goes on, the more you're in danger of being overrun and running out of resources. So, of course, focus fire, yes, good. Simple. All right. Next bullet. Area of effect, AoE abilities are effective but can be very dangerous. When you damage multiple enemies at once, you risk getting their attention and straining your healer. Be cautious when employing AoE attacks. Again, this is another kind of pretty standard thing in an MMO. If you are using an AoE, generally you're going to want to use it right after a taunt happens or something like that, so that you're not going to be attacked for X amount of time after the ability you're casting. So it's the same thing, And there's another thing they bring up in this this article too called back lines, enemy back lines or something like that. It's a kind of a weird term, and it seems kind of similar to things we've seen in past MMOs, but from the way they describe it, it's a little bit different too, and we'll get into that here in a little bit.
Right.
But that's, again, part of the AoE thing. Obviously, if you are using AoE, you have to know where you're placing it and be careful when you're doing it. So.
Yeah, and in general, I mean, AoE obviously is going to take threat. If you're damaging every enemy in a group, yeah, those enemies are going to be like, screw you, pal, and they're going to attack you. And like, as Deagen said earlier, it's always best to watch for those visual cues, or if you're in TeamSpeak, to have your tank say, hey, hit your AoE, and then I'll do like an AoE taunt, or I'm about to taunt this boss, and then you can AoE so he won't, attack you, and then our off tank can grab the ads or something like that. It's always good to communicate when you're going to use your AoE, because I've seen dudes run into like WoW raids and like use AoEs when they shouldn't, and just get steamrolled by bosses or ads and whatnot. So there's some strategy based on when you want to use your AoE and your single target. And hey, they're saying it right here, you will get your ass kicked. It can be very dangerous to use AoE. And if they're saying that, which is, I know it's a no-brainer, but if they're making it a full bullet point, maybe AoE will be extra dangerous in ESO. We don't know yet, though.
Exactly. And, again, kind of foreshadowing here, what we're talking about now, if you're still kind of maybe new to an MMO, will make a lot more sense when we actually dive into the enemy behavior and how that works, because it does talk about they label it a pack system, a pack mentality as far as engaging enemies in this game. So we'll go into that in a little bit, but we'll continue going through these bullet points for right now. All right, and the last one is be careful with your attacks. Avoid attacking monsters in again, this is where they first use the term back lines of a pack. Even getting too close to them can cause them to engage the fight and threaten to overwhelm your party. Now, this is kind of, again, something that's very relevant in MMOs nowadays. If you get too close, if you aggro one pack and you get too close to another and pull a second one, that's generally bad news.
Yeah, it's just pulling ads, which is always, always bad, especially in a dungeon. Pulling ads in a dungeon normally means a wipe, unless you're super high level and you're above the level, like far above the level requirement of that dungeon. But yeah, I mean, that's also kind of a no-brainer. The whole backlines comment, I think that's just their weird way of saying don't pull enemies that are like behind the group you're fighting or something like that. Just be careful with pulling ads, but
they go into it a little bit more in detail when we get to the next player.
Oh yeah. I've only read this article once. You're right.
It's okay. I will keep
Thanks, Big Daddy. Thank you, Big Daddy.
Okay. All right, so that's pretty much it for DPS. And again, really the only thing in there that is really awesome for me, besides everything being kind of is monsters will attack you, and I like that. Again, you're given tools to mitigate that damage and keep yourself alive for a little while. So don't freak out when you get attacked.
I see dungeons in ESO being a lot of knowing when to CC certain groups. I think there's going to be like big waves of enemies, and you're going to have to know when to control an area, everyone needs to use their crowd control. You're going to have to, I think, in my opinion, there's going to be a lot more strategy involved in terms of, okay, everyone needs to blow their CCs now, and then we got to concentrate on this guy. And as soon as he's down, blow your next CC. All of our CCs on these guys over here. So I think it's going to be a lot of crowd control, because they're saying right now, like, DPS is going to take damage. The tank does have taunts and ways to get enemies off of you, but in this game, it's not your traditional, dungeon set. Enemies will be attacking you at all times, right? They're always going to be trying to kill you. They don't care if you're a tank or not. Mm-hmm. So I think that because of that, the whole dungeon experience is gonna change, and I can't freaking wait to see how they have it set up.
Yeah, I think it's that one bullet point about enemies will attack you just makes me excited, because it pretty much leads right into the game being a more immersive MMO as far as, it's not like, okay, well, I can be in here and, like, nothing's ever going to attack me. Like, this is, it's just like, I like that you're going to have to work more and dodge and block and interrupt and do everything you can to stay alive, and I like that.
Yeah, if you ever feel safe as a DPS in a dungeon, and I have felt that before in some WoW dungeons, that's not good. You should never feel safe in a dungeon fighting monsters. You should always be on your toes, running around, ready to block. You should have some kind of respect for the monsters you're fighting, right?
Definitely.
So, good job, ESO.
It's good stuff. From on paper right now, we'll say
on
good
paper,
job.
Good job on paper. Good job.
Good job on paper. All right, we'll move on to healing now. First point for healing. Make sure your party has at least one player that can heal the group, which ties into weapon swapping and all that jazz. The more players that bring healing abilities, the less there is need for a dedicated healer. Now that right there is interesting to me because they actually bring up the word dedicated healer. Coordinate with your group. You might even find that with the right abilities, each player can manage his or her own health. Now this point brings up a couple different things that we need to talk about. Okay, first of all, it does bring up the point that you sometimes will have a dedicated healer, or someone could technically be a dedicated healer. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, that goes back to what we kind of mentioned maybe last podcast or the podcast before in terms of what if you join a dungeon and everybody is got their weapon slots and their skills set to like all DPS, or like you accidentally get into a party with like 4 tanks and they're all DPS tanks.
Right.
In this they're saying you never know. You could have a dedicated healer, or you could have a group that has 5
one ability on their bar that heals themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You never know what you're going to get, and in terms of that, that's kind of a fun gamble too. I think there's going to be groups that get together for dungeons and it's just not going to work. They're going to be like, you know what? Yeah, we have 2 guys that are off healers, and then we have 2 DPS and a tank. But we need someone that has way more heals. We need a dedicated healer, or we need maybe a 3rd guy to have off heals. Because
like maybe 2 of them have self heals, and one guy has 1 AOE or something like that.
Right.
It definitely adds a lot of strategy into what you bring into dungeons, and I like that. And I like that they bring that up in this article, saying that you might have a group with a dedicated healer, but you might not. And you might have to be able to swap some abilities out that are going to allow you to heal yourself.
Yep.
And I think that's great.
I think it's a great thing too. I think so too. And I like that there's I do and I don't like the fact that there's a gamble on your groups. Like obviously you're going to want to party with your friends and like people that you know. Like, okay, I know this guy's a healer and a DPS, or I know this guy's a ranged DPS, melee tank or something like that. It's gonna be good to know your party, but in terms of like pugs and stuff, I think it's exciting, and I do kind of like the fact that you never know who you're gonna be up with. Like in WoW, like we said before, you click on the dungeon finder and you pick your role. Are you DPS? Are you a healer? Are you a tank? Can you fill multiple roles? Like if you're a druid, yeah, I can be a tank and a healer, sure. Yeah. And this, you just show up and you're like, okay, what skills do you have? What skills do you have? What skills do you have?
It's gonna be really weird.
This isn't gonna work.
You know what? It's kind of funny.
Awesome.
Because when you think about that, it's like obviously the first thing that you should make sure you level up and have on your skill set is some sort of self-healing ability, just in case you don't have a dedicated healer. Because if you don't want to be that guy that's like, well, I can't heal myself, so I'm gonna die a lot.
That would suck.
So you're gonna want to level that up right away.
Straight up though, I mean, if you aren't a Templar class in ESO, that's the only class that gets healing abilities in its skill line besides using restoration. I'm assuming some of the PvP skill lines have healing abilities and whatnot.
Right, probably something like
the Mage Guild and stuff like that. But in terms of class, Templar is the only one that has healing abilities. And if you want to be a Nightblade or like a Dragon Knight and heal, you got to use a restoration staff. You have to.
Right.
So.
It's going to be interesting. I like that though. I like that they put that in their article. All right, we'll talk about the next one. Magica potions can be a great boon. Now, for people who don't know what boon means, it means like advantage. But make sure you choose when to use them carefully. Potions cannot be used in quick succession. So, again, I don't really know how the potions work in this game.
It's been talked about, so I don't mind saying. They've mentioned before that Q is going to be your consumable slot. That's like the default hotkey, and I kept it at that because it was good.
Yeah.
If you tap Q, whatever potion is in the slot, you drink it, right? And then there's like a 2-minute timer or something, so you can drink another one. Now, if you hold down Q, there is like an 8-wheel slot, and you can put food in one of the slots. You can put different kinds of potions.
Oh, I like that. It's like a quick bar almost for your consumable. That's really intuitive. So I like that.
let's say you're running around and you have your healing potions up, you ran out of magicka, you hold Q, and then you swing your mouse toward the direction on the wheel, what new potion you want up on Q. So let's say my mana is in slot 4 or whatever. I hold Q, swing my mouse to 4, let go of Q, and then all of a sudden, bam, my mana potion is now up or whatever. And now I can hit Q, hit my mana, and then hold Q again, swing it up to slot 1 for health, and I'm back in healing potions. It's pretty easy. It took me like a second to kind of get used to it, but it's really quick and on the fly in combat.
Okay, I like that.
It's good, yeah, it's really good.
So, I mean, basically that point is just saying you gotta be careful when you use your potions. They can't be used in quick succession. It could, be the difference between you not dying or one of your teammates not dying. So just pretty much be wary of that. Next point. The tank won't be the only party member taking damage. And this was part of the DPS player rules as well. This is intended, and you will need to watch the other party members carefully. Right. Which is, again, that's pretty standard. I mean, oftentimes in other MMOs, someone will pull aggro or, take damage from someone that might not have a threat from the tank. But that's pretty standard stuff. I mean, obviously, if you're a healer, you're not just healing the tank. That's kind of an unnecessary point, in my opinion, but it makes complete sense.
And don't forget, heals in this game are conal and AoE. And I think if there is any direct target heals, there's not very many of them. They've pretty much stated almost every single heal in the game, if not all, is AoE based, like an explosion of green around you, or a cone where you make a cone of green and point it at someone. When I say green, I'm just talking about like the heal color of like WoW and stuff like that. But yeah, so everyone's going to be taking damage. You're going to be taking damage, not only the tank, and you're going to be in the middle of the fight because you have to be in the middle of the fight to get off those AoE heals and those cones, right?
Yep.
And it's gone are the days when you're all the way in the back and you're casting direct heals on a tank from miles away and you're not worried about getting hit. Nope, you got to be in the fray now. So it's going to be pretty awesome. I think healing's gonna be pretty cool, man. I'm pretty excited.
I think everything is gonna. I mean, the whole system in and of itself. Again, when we start talking about tanking, too, this article about tanking makes it sound like it's gonna be pretty awesome as well. So, last point for healing was you'll take damage too. Remember that you can interrupt, block, and dodge crowd control abilities that stun, slow, or otherwise incapacitate enemies can be extremely useful for healers, and so can damaging abilities. So again, just reiterating that you need to be able to use all of your abilities that are allotted to you, whether that is dodging, blocking, crowd control, slowing. I mean, everybody is going to have a part to play, and people that don't pull their weight, it's going to be pretty noticeable, I think, especially in a game where
this is
if you don't dodge, if you don't block, it's like, why am I healing this guy who's constantly taking all this damage? Like, you'll be able to pick out people that are not doing what they're supposed to do, and it's going to be really obvious, I think, in this game.
So. Oh yeah, I love that it's that skill based. I think I just hope I don't end up sucking and being like that guy, but I don't think I will. But it is obviously going to be very skill based. People are going to know if you suck or not in this game, straight up. That's the best thing ever. Like in WoW. You could kind of tell sometimes if someone was good if they didn't nail the rotation right or they didn't move out of the fire, but for the most part, you could be raiding with someone that bought that account and never leveled up that character, that 80 that he's playing, but he's just along for the road now because he bought the account. In this game, you better know what you're doing. Like, it's pretty skill-based. And in terms of the healer taking damage, so you can interrupt, block, and dodge and whatnot, I think it's going to be, it's really going to factor in on weapon swapping. Like, you're going to have that resto staff out, right? And you're going to want to concentrate on healing abilities. When they do finally get on you and they do finally start attacking you, you're going to have to, hit Z to switch weapon or whatever the key is. And that's when you start doing your blocks and your damage and your interrupts and etc. So you're going to have to, don't forget, there's two skill bars you're going to have to keep an eye on and remember.
I just think it's great. And it means that as a healer, you're going to be having just as much fun as the tank or the DPS. You're not just healing. Like, you have your part to play.
You can DPS.
I like that. I like that. So that's it for the healing. Let's talk about tanking. All right. First point they put in here for tanking is you won't need to get every enemy's attention. Every player can take a few hits from standard attacks, and they have lots of ways to take care of themselves. Many healing abilities affect an area. So if you only have one, should be able to take care of several party members. Yes, so it's basically saying there's a lot of AoE healing in this game, and it's okay if you don't have every thing, taunted to you. Now, again, this brings into the whole immersion for Elder Scrolls Online as far as everybody has to dodge, everybody has to block, everybody has to do what they can. And it talks about, in tanking too, about you need to be sure that you have the tougher mobs on you, but as far as the standard mobs, everybody can take a few hits, and most people should be able to fend for themselves, at least for a little while. So I think that's good.
Indeed, sir. Yeah.
Indubitably, yes.
Pretty common sense shit that we've already kind of talked about. AoE heals. Every player can take a few hits. Make sure you can protect yourself. Yeah.
Just be ready, basically.
Be ready.
Next point. In a fight with a large group of enemies, a tank's ability to control the fight is critical. Stun the healer, interrupt the spellcasters. You're the best party member for the job, because your stuns and interrupts will tend to get those enemies to attack you back. Now, that's cool. I mean, that's again a kind of a standard thing. Obviously, a tank or a off tank is generally going to have a lot of stuns and stuff like that, and it's just, I assume it's just saying, well, you're going to have a high threat on certain abilities that are going to be stunning and making things attack you back. So, seems to be somewhat standard for that.
Pretty much, yeah. It's very standard, actually. Yeah, if anyone that knows about MMOs, that's what it's all about. Tanking.
Interrupts and stuff like that too, which is
stun the boss, interrupt the spellcaster. That's your job. I mean, of course, DPS is supposed to help too. Like, if there's like 3 different spellcasters, your tank might not necessarily get to have a skill that can stun or interrupt, all 3 of those spellcasters. So once in a while, that DPS is going to have to help and interrupt that 3rd guy that your tank can't reach. But besides that, the tank's job is mitigate threat and interrupt and stun. So.
And again, the last point that they bring up is you do need to stay engaged with tougher monsters like bosses. They hit much harder, and your damage mitigation and extra health will help keep you alive while other characters might die.
So this is the first time they've actually said, this is what you do need to roll for this. This is the first time we've actually said, guess what? You got to be a tank to take on a boss. That's good.
There has to be somebody who can take the hits. Exactly. So now that kind of brings us into our holy trinity. We'll talk about that real quick before we start going into monster behaviors. Now, technically, this game does not have a holy trinity. Technically. But loosely, it kind of does. I mean, as far as healing goes, there may not be a dedicated healer.
Right.
But everybody's going to be able to heal, or have the if they choose to, they could heal.
Right.
But as far as tanking goes, it's pretty much from this comment is you're going to need a tank. Someone's going to have to be able to take the hits. So.
I foresee a lot of DPS heal hybrids and DPS tank hybrids. That's what I see a lot of. That's not what I see a lot of. I haven't played since that one weekend, but that's what I assume I'm going to see a lot of.
Yep, tank DPS, DPS, or no, tank, DPS, and DPS heals.
Yep, you're gonna see DPS that's gonna want survivability. Who doesn't want survivability? Everybody wishes they had a heal, right? Now that you can, bet your sweet ass you're gonna see a lot of like dual wield rogues with a resto staff or something like that. I really believe that's gonna be the case. But it's not necessarily a holy trinity now where you have 3 DPS, 1 healer, 1 tank. There's still remnants of that trinity there, though. You're always going to need that tank to be that big beef cake to go to sponge up the damage. You're going to need those quick damage dealers that are a little squishier, but they can, dish out that extra backstab or that fireball that's better. And absolutely, you're going to have someone or everyone be able to heal themselves, or a healer that can heal. But sure, there's not necessarily a holy trinity. You might go into a group where there is 5 DPS and heal hybrids, and I'm assuming that's going to be viable for some dungeons. Everyone just quickly spanks down the enemy, and one guy AoE heals and then swaps out. As soon as his mana's down, he'll run in and use his stamina to attack, while one of the DPS kind of steps back and uses his mana to conal, heal, etc. I think there's going to be different stratagems that people are going to use for dungeons, and I think that's awesome. I think that's a very good thing. I think it's a very good thing.
There's so many strategies that are going to, pop up as soon as open beta and stuff like that starts. And I'm sure even those strategies will probably change when the game's full release. Like, there's probably so many different ways that we're going to be able to take down these bosses in these dungeons. I don't think it's going to be like, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. Obviously, there's certain things you have to dodge, move from, interrupt, and all that stuff's pretty standard. But as far as your setup is how to do it, I think you'll have a little bit of leeway with that, and I think that's really cool.
Definitely.
All right. Let's talk about monster behaviors in this article that they, again, published. I'll link it again here in the chat for people who might not have it up, which is pretty cool if you guys want to follow through with us. So, monster behaviors in this game, they have a couple points in here we'll go over, but generally it's kind of the same, right? They want to keep kind of the same threat systems that work in MMOs currently, but they also want to have a little bit of an Elder Scrolls Online feel to it, where it's a little bit different. You don't have as much UI as you would have in other games telling you that you have threat and all this stuff, so it's a little bit different.
Well, there's going to be visual cues. There's visual cues. So as long as you're no longer paying attention to a UI and like buttons, etc., and like timers and stuff, what you're paying attention to now is the actual player and the actual enemy, because maybe like you'll see like a charge up glow, or maybe like a little exclamation point will like pop over your head or something like that. But you're gonna have cues whenever you're the guy that's about to get attacked, and etc. So I just said and etc. That didn't even make any sense.
And etc. Yes.
That disregard that bad English.
All right, let's talk about these the points that they bring up in this article. So first one, enemies in any room in a dungeon are all aware of each other. When one is attacked, the others are alerted and prepare to fight back. We call this pack mentality. Now, it's hard to look into this a whole lot, because what's to say that's not exactly like every other MMO that's out there?
It is. That's exactly what they're just wording it differently. They're fluffing up the same shit that we know already. Like,
now,
if you pull a group of mobs,
a little bit though. Say you have this massive room, you attack one guy on the left. Now they're saying from that comment that the guy all the way on the other side of the room is gonna know, and he's gonna fight back. So as far as like,
no, I'm just saying
precision pulls
he's
and stuff
alerted
like that,
and prepared to fight
that's
back.
what was. It does say prepared. That's true.
So I don't necessarily think if you go into a big cave and there's like enemies all over the cave in different areas, you kill one of the dudes, everyone in there's like, oh hell no, and they all like charge you and try to kill you. I think it's gonna be okay where you take out that guy on the left side of the cave, but you're gonna see the enemies kind of like looking over like, what the hell? Let's get ready to go. And
right.
you can like take on, which also is kind of like immersion breaking. Like if they know you're there and they're alerted and they're prepared to fight, why not just swarm you then? Well, but if they do that, then it's broken.
Yeah, let's continue with this too, because it gets into this a little bit more.
Yeah.
So the next topic, or the next point, is by default a pack of monsters spread out. Each enemy chooses a target, which is again interesting. We'll talk about that in a second. Player actions can change their targets to some extent. For example, taunt abilities force an enemy to attack you for a fixed duration. Now that's interesting too, because it doesn't say as long as you hold threat. It says for a fixed duration. So that's a key point right there. Attacking an enemy that hasn't been attacked recently can also cause it to focus and switch to you. Now, that kind of ties back to the AoE abilities earlier, right? that's why you have to be super careful with AoE abilities, because if you AoE in a group and a target hasn't been attacked in a while, then, well, guess who's the new target? Now it's going to be you.
Yep.
So, but this is an interesting thing because it does talk about a couple different things. So, a pack of monsters spread out, and each enemy chooses a target. Let's talk about that. What do you think about that?
Well, you got your party of 4, and you roll up, and there's 4 enemies. The tank charges in, and everyone else runs up to start DPSing. The healer's there, ready to go, healing the tank. You're going to have each of those enemies choose someone and say, "You're mine." It's like it's like taking positions on a basketball court, like man on man, right? And then let's say that tank is like, "Nope, I'm going to taunt you, and you're going to attack me for 5 seconds." And so he attacks the guy that's attacking the healer for 5 seconds. He starts attacking the tank. Now, after that taunt wears off, does he go back to attacking the healer, or does he stay on you? I don't know. I'm assuming it says, by the way, it says, to force them to attack you for a fixed duration. I'm assuming that means he's going to go back to the healer and try to attack the healer.
That's what it sounds like. It doesn't sound like they're putting a threat mechanic in there, just mainly like a taunt thing. Or like, because it said earlier with the tanking abilities that you'll have stuns and stuff like that that will force enemies to attack you. But it doesn't say, according to this, that as long as you hold X amount of threat, that you're going to keep those enemies on you. So
this shit sounds like it's going to be hard.
It sounds
like it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and I think that's good.
So happy about that, yeah.
Now, we kind of talked about the second part as far as attacking an enemy that hasn't been attacked recently can cause it to focus and switch to you. Now, that to me sounds like there is somewhat of a threat mechanic. So say the tank runs in, all right, into a group of 5 enemies. Let's just say 5 enemies. Those enemies then will spread out and each select a target and start attacking those targets.
Right.
Now, if nobody attacks any targets except for the one the tank is focusing, technically from that last part, the tank, if he, AoE'd, stunned all of them, could, grab some threat from them and hopefully, keep those off your DPS or healers for a little while.
No, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, like, let's say, like they were saying earlier, like focus fire on one enemy, right?
Yes.
That's the best thing to do. So if you go into a group, instead of going all willy-nilly and squirting your AoEs all over the place and, like, I'll take him, you take him. If you just walk in and whatever the tank charges to, you attack that guy only. You don't even worry about the other enemies.
Yeah.
And then the tank does a taunt. Will they start attacking someone else? Why would they? The tank attacks.
Right, exactly. Besides evading and like dodging and blocking and stuff like that, I think that's how it's going to end up being, right? Don't attack the targets that aren't being attacked by the tank.
Right. That's
what it sounds like to me. And, I just brought up that point, if the tank runs in, it's not all those, and if the tank runs into a group of enemies, all those enemies in that group aren't going to attack the tank. That's not how it works. And I think that's cool because they're clearly stating right now that they're going to spread out and choose a target and attack that target. And I think that's cool because that means, all right, well, they're going to spread out. We got to regroup and go from there. And it's not just like tank runs in, everything attacks the tank. They're trying to make it more of like an immersive feel and give it like, the AI in the game actually has life in them instead of just mindless things that you're killing. Right. So I think that's really cool. I like that they put that in there. It makes it sound like it's going to be super immersive, and I like where it's going.
I would agree.
All right, next point. Pack monsters don't all attack at once. Some immediately join the fight, but others prepare in the back lines before moving in. If you get too close to backline enemies, or if you attack them, they'll join the battle. Now this is weird to me. We talk about all these things that they're doing to add immersion, and then you get this doozy thrown at you, which seems just a little weird. Is Soma frozen? I think Soma's frozen. Google. He'll be back in a second. I'll keep talking about this. So basically, it seems a little weird. Like it says, prepare in the back lines, right? And what does that mean? Like, one of them's going to be stringing up his crossbow or sharpening his blade before he comes in? Like, I don't know. It seems a little bit odd to me. But if you attack them or get too close, they'll join in the battle. Let's get Soma back real quick. I think he is back, actually. Let's see here. There you go. You're back now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, my Google Chrome decided to close itself.
No worries.
Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. That was immersion breaking.
Whoa, Soma, what a dick. All right, well, I don't know if you heard what I was saying, but...
I did not.
Okay, we'll go over it again. Oh my gosh. All right. Pack monsters don't all attack once. Some immediately join the fight, but others prepare in the back lines before moving in. If you get too close to them or attack them, they'll join the battle. Now, what does that sound like to you? Because it sounds kind of weird to me.
Pack monsters don't all attack at once. So you roll up on a pack of monsters, and there's 5 of them, but only 3 of them step up like, don't worry, guys in the back, we got this. You just watch. And like there's like in the back, like,
or like I was saying, like they're back there stringing up their bow or sharpening their pickaxe. I don't know. Like,
yeah, it's like they're on like a call. Like, hold on, give me a minute.
I gotta take a dump. I'll be there in 2 minutes.
If you get too close to backline enemies or if you attack them, they'll join the battle. That's very weird. I don't actually know. I don't know.
Yeah, it is a little bit weird. It sounds funny to me, so I don't know.
Oh, we have someone in the chat that's very sweet. Liz is hot. You guys are gay, and not only that, but you aren't allowed to talk about the beta, and I've reported the stream and your YouTube videos.
Yeah, we're not talking about the beta. We're talking about an article that Elder Scrolls Online released yesterday. Yeah. So, GG, you're smart.
GG. And if they're talking about the past episode where I said that I played in the closed beta and then didn't actually talk about the beta at all, then good luck on your quest. It's not going to happen though. Anyway, let's continue.
Yes, good luck on your quest. But yeah, so that's kind of that. It seems a little bit weird, but I don't know how that's going to work out. It seems kind of funny because you do all this thing to have all these things in place to like make it feel like you're more immersed in the game, but at the same time they have this where others are just preparing in the back lines. Like, seems kind of weird, but we'll see. And the last one is, this is actually really interesting too. In general, enemies target the closest player that is attacking them. If they aren't being attacked, different enemy types choose different targets differently. For example, a ranged enemy is more likely to target a ranged player than a melee enemy is. Now, that's very interesting. It's going to add a lot of new feel, I think, to a lot of an MMO. And I don't think something like this has been done before. I think that's awesome.
I think it's cool too. As a person that likes to be more melee than ranged, I don't mind like getting in the fray, obviously, and I know I'm going to get smacked, but as a range, I've played range classes in the past, and I always, like I said, I always felt kind of safe in dungeons. Mm-hmm. As a range class, I didn't feel like I had to worry. I just move out of the fire once in a while. Maybe once in a while an ad will run up that the tank will immediately, take off of me. Now, if you're a range class, you're gonna get shot back. People are gonna shoot at you back, and that's good. I like the fact that range DPS, range classes aren't necessarily gonna feel safe in the back like they always have. So
right, and it's a little bit weird to think about too, because say you do have this group of enemies. Say there's 4 enemies. There's 2 ranged, 1 melee, and 1 like tanky bruiser guy or something. So the tank runs in and obviously takes the tanky bruiser guy. The melee jump on the melee, but say the ranged kind of stay in the back. When the pack apparently spreads out around the room, Now, the ranged ones you would assume would spread out and eventually come back and attack the ranged guys. But that's a little bit weird because they'd have to, circle around the room or run through the middle to get to them, which, from what we're reading, is kind of what it sounds like.
And I bet you there's going to be different group mentalities for different packs of enemies too. Like some enemies might, try to flank to the left and attack your range, whereas other enemy packs might just say screw it and they might just try to bum rush you or something like that. I think that as we play the game and we discover different enemy packs, I don't think that we're gonna start to realize, okay, so we all know that all the range is gonna get attacked by the range, and the melee is gonna get attacked by the melee. I think it's gonna get switched up. There's gonna be flanks. There's gonna be different styles that the enemy will try to propose whenever they attack. I think it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be hard. I'm excited. It's gonna be hard. I'm excited. Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Classic.
That was me. Sorry.
Oh gosh, and that's pretty much it for monster behavior. And I really like this article. I think it is really a nice look into what we can be expecting as far as dungeons go, and I'm excited.
A lot of no-brainers, but there's a few gems and a few nuggets of info that's really good to read. So.
Definitely. All right. Well, moving on. Let's get into conditional skill lines. Now, this is something that Soma has a lot more knowledge on than I do, so I'll let him kind of give you guys the rundown.
I wouldn't say I have a lot of knowledge about it, but I do know everything they've said about it, and that is conditional skill lines are lycanthropy and like vampirism and stuff like that we all love to do in like Skyrim and Oblivion and Morrowind and stuff. I always liked being a vampire, even though it was really hard, especially like in Oblivion, or excuse me, I'm hitting puberty apparently. Like Oblivion, it was tough, like going out in the sunlight as a vampire and like managing being a vampire. That was not easy. It was a hard way to play the game. I loved doing it. Now, in terms of how an MMO will have vampirism or lycanthropy work, I don't foresee seeing like going out into the daylight in an MMO as a vampire skill line guy. I don't see that being something that's going to hurt you, because
I don't think there'd be a negative effect for that. Exactly.
Now, if it's only skill line, I'm assuming there's going to be passives and active skills, right, for the vampire skill line. Let's say there's 5 actives and 3 passives or whatever. I don't even know. I'm just saying. Just saying something.
Right.
Theoretical. I think, like vampire skill lines are going to be like, suck blood and like maybe like raise someone that's died or something like that. I think there's going to be cool little skills like that, and like passives like, you steal 10% extra health with attacks, or I don't know. And I'm making all this shit up. This isn't like from the beta, so don't go nuts in the chat, but I don't actually know the skills, but I don't think there's going to be any weaknesses. If you want to be a vampire in ESO and you want the vampire skill line, I don't think there's going to be an effect that is going to be like, you know what, screw the vampire skill line. I wish I never would have learned it. Now I can't play in the day. Or
what if there was some sort of like, debuff where you was like 10% less damage during the day and like 10% extra damage during the nighttime or something like that, where it would technically balance itself out, but it would be kind of a neat mechanic.
Or you have like 40% less resistance to fire, but like 50% more against cold attacks or something like that. Yeah, that's cool and all, but if that's the case, I don't see a lot of people.
It's really, I agree though, and I understand what you're saying. It's something that's hard to put into an MMO and have it feel 100% like an Elder Scrolls game, because normally you would play that and you would have the downside, but it's hard to put a downside in an MMO, because then people are like,
no one's gonna want to do it.
Exactly.
Then the min-maxers first of all would be like, nope. I'm just going to be a regular old human dude, screw being a vampire. I don't want negative 40% fire res or something like that. And then on the other side of that, lycanthropy, What does that mean for the player? Can he shift into a werewolf? Can he only shift when, once a day, Skyrim style, or how
Only
is
on
that
a full moon.
Yeah, only on a full moon. So
Which happens once every month. In,
one day a month. One day a month you can use your werewolf skill line. Obviously, that's not going to be the case, and you also can't be like a vampire and a werewolf. You can only, if you go down the lycanthropy skill line, you can no longer go down the vampire skill line, etc. So there's some choice in that too. And you can also choose not to pick any of them. And there might even be more than just lycanthropy and vampirism. There might be other conditional skill lines too. How these are going to change the player, I don't know. I think I kind of did like the fact that I was uber powerful as a vampire at night and I could do special things, but I had to be careful during the day. I liked that. Yeah. Is it going to be like that in MMO? I doubt it.
Did you suck the blood from people that were sleeping?
Yeah.
You bastard. You didn't even let them know that you were there? What a dick.
I would suck.
Oh, you're totally lagging out. Robot Soma. Maybe leave the call and come back or something. I could make out a screenshot of you doing the robot. See if I can get him back in here. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with Soma's computer today. He's been lagging out or something. Oh, there he goes. He just came back in for a second.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I think I'm having internet issues, to be honest. I don't really know what the deal is. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry, everyone. Yeah, it's definitely some internet issues. And yeah, I know I'm having internet issues because I'm looking at the stream right now and it's slideshow central, so
well, we'll wrap this up then real quickly. I mean, we didn't really have anything else. We were going to do a couple random viewer questions too. There's a couple quick things that I wanted to bring up before we leave too. There's a couple pieces of information that have been released in the past week and a half. There will be no in-game voice chat in Elder Scrolls Online.
Nope.
Also, they kind of give a hint as to how big the game is as far as playtime. Each Alliance quest line is going to take roughly 200 hours to complete everything, which is a lot. 200 hours per Alliance should give us quite a bit of time. And that's per Alliance faction, so that's quite a bit of stuff, and that doesn't include the PvP stuff. So that's just purely the Alliance quest line, which is nice.
Yeah, they've also stated that Cyrodiil is going to have a max cap of 2,000 players in it at any time. And you're also going to have, you know how you have a campaign, right? Each campaign will have 2,000 players max in it. If a campaign is full and you can't actually get into Cyrodiil, you will then be put into a guest campaign. And then there's also going to be a third guest campaign in case that one's full too. Which is, whatever. Obviously it's going to be a giant instant zone, so they have to do that.
It makes sense why that's there, but at the same time, it's I want to play the campaign that I've been playing on.
Right, of course, yeah, so, obviously.
I don't know.
But sometimes it's going to be full. So, and then of course you can always pay with Alliance points to go to a different campaign. And they've also stated that Cyrodiil is 9 times bigger than the standard ESO zone. Not like not a whole faction territory. I'm not talking like all of the Ebonheart Pact territory or the country of Skyrim. But let's say a starting zone area is let's say the island of Solstheim in Skyrim's Dragonborn DLC.
Right.
Imagine that island and times 9. That's how big Cyrodiil will be.
It's large.
It's big. It's freaking big.
Yes.
You're not going to be able to waltz across this thing in 10 minutes. It's going to be huge.
It's going to take a little while.
Yeah, I'm excited.
But yeah, I guess we're going to wrap it up. Unless you have anything else you wanted to talk about, Soma.
No, there's not much else to say, I guess, this week. We're still waiting. It was kind of quiet due to the fact that they're still kind of like relaxing,
winding down from E3.
And they know that they're about to have to go super hard for PAX Prime. That's good. PAX Prime is the last huge, big thing. I guess there's like Gamescom's happening still though too, right? There's a couple of big gaming things coming up, but PAX Prime is like the big one, you know.
And
for people, so
just another slice of information too. They did just release or send out a bunch more of beta invites. So, you know, check your emails, guys. Check your spam folders, because I already checked. I didn't get in again. I'm so sad.
I'm gonna have to go check all my spam folders.
But they did send out another round of beta invites, so definitely check your stuff. But yeah, that's it. Again, this was the Elder Scrolls Online Podcast, number 6. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sorry we had a little bit of connectivity.
Don't apologize, Deagen. It's me, not you.
It's not you, Soma. It's you.
It's Comcast. You. It's Comcast. They're stupid.
Oh, it's all right.
But yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Episode 6. We'll see you guys next week, next Monday. Monday, not Tuesday. It's going to be Monday next week. Episode 7. 7 weeks of ESO Podcast already, almost. Crazy,
it's
right?
Been awesome. And a couple quick things in the chat. Again, I don't know if there's underwater combat. I've seen swimming, but I mean that's pretty standard. I don't think there's any underwater combat. They're curious about the day and night changing, and if you can sleep in the game. I don't think there's anything like that. I don't think there's any sleeping or anything like that. So.
No sleeping. There is day and night, though.
There is definitely a day and night cycle, but you're not going to like, click on the bed to sleep 10 hours.
Yeah.
It would make no sense. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be back next week, hopefully on Monday next week, if Soma's car can make it. So we can
Monday, I'll be there. Monday.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Peace out, dudes.